Welcome to the presentation of the topic called risk analysis. We are just going to discuss about what is risk analysis and why risk analysis is supposed to be considered in a development of a particular project. So there are different types of risk, and we are going to discuss about it. What is member risk management? Risk management means we have to identify and address and eliminate the problem before it damages the project. So in risk analysis part, we have to identify the possible amount of risk which there is an occurrence of a risk in a particular project. So in risk analysis, we have to consider there are kind of a risk like proactive risk and reactive risk. Proactive risk. What does mean by proactive risk management? In proactive risk management, we are going to react for the risk earlier. So we are going to predict the risk and quickly adapt those kind of changes. And due to maybe it may be due to different crises or it may be due to different emerging situations. So proactive risk we can able to identify and we can able to react it in a faster way. What is meant by reactive risk management? In reactive risk management, after occurrence of the risk only we can able to identify the risk and we have to solve those kind of risk and the effective steps which are required. We have to adapt those kind of changes in the particular project and so as to solve those kind of issues which are comes in a particular which is going to come in a particular project. So after coming, when we resolve those kind of risk are called a reactive risk. That is called reactive risk management. And the next topic, that is some of the principles we have to keep it in mind for handling the risk. So what are the principles techniques we have to consider? When there's a risk comes, we should not lose our hope. The manager should encourage the team to look forward the particular in solving that particular kind of risk. So what are the further steps we are supposed to take to overcome those kind of risk? So in that aspect, we have to look any kind of risk which may occur in a particular project because risk may occur early or in the late or at the time of a development project. So whenever or whatever time the risk occurs in a particular project, once it is identified, we have to take some of the reactive risk steps and solve those kind of risk. And the next concept in risk management is how to analyze and process those kind of risk. Some of the risk can be avoided and some of the risk can be reduced and some of the risk we can transfer and some of the risk we have to accept and we have to react for it. So for this, once we have to find out and identify what are the possible risk in a particular project. So that is called risk analysis and identification of risk. And then we have to analyze those risks and we have to take some of the plans and we have to progress towards it and we have to implement. And then once it is the code which is written for implementing those kind of solving risks should be tracked and it should be monitored and the progress of a particular risk in a particular project. So how to identify the risk? The risk can be identified depends upon the project and we have to know the size of the project, whether it is a complex project or a medium or an average scale project. Based on the project size, the resources which are required for implementing the particular project should be identified in the beginning itself. And the business impacts different constraints will affect different kind of business. For banking sector, some of the parameters will affect, and for educational sector, some of the parameters will affect the business. So we have to consider those kind of risk inside the application, inside the system earlier itself. And customer characteristics, the customer may change the requirement, or the customer may want a particular change in the particular project. So that should be effectively communicated among the development team. If it is not communicated properly, that may also affect the implementation of the that may affect the projects. So that is also a kind of a risk. Process definition, every process which are involved in a particular project should be clearly explained, because at the middle of the project, when there is a need of a particular resource, or if there is a need of a clarification in the process, and then it may delay the particular project, or incompletion of the particular process may affect other modules, cannot be implemented on time. So that is called process related risk. And the development environment, so, if the development environment, the quality of the tools which are required for completion of the project, if it is failed and if it is not available, then it may affect the project. This is also a kind of a risk. The technology, the complexity of the technology. Sometimes it may be a new technology for the development team. They have to learn, they have to build the particular software, but in case if they are not trained properly, then they cannot able to complete the project on time. So that is also a kind of a risk. The staff size and the experience, so experience, if they are a fresher and if they are involved in a complex project, that may affect this income completion of the particular project. Hence we have to consider and these parameters in the in various aspects, and we have to think in all these kind of aspects may affect the progress of a particular project, and it may causes a risk. But related to this parameter, some of the risks can be identified and can be rectified before delivering the project, and some of the risks cannot be identified, and after delivery of the project only can be identified and can be solved. So, what is meant by the next topic, that is risk component? So, what are the components which are involved in risk management? That is the performance, the cost, and the support and the schedule. So performance, the product should meet the requirements of the customer. So that is an important milestone in a particular project. So the software project will go through different processes, and at launch it will be completed, and it is going to be deployed and demonstrated to the user as a product. And the product quality dissolves, which may be the risk or uncertainty in the particular project. The expected module is not functioning, the expected product is not working well, which decreases the performance of the project. So it is also because at the development side, the testing time it may works, but the customer environment, when you go and install the application, it may not work, or it may not be compatible in different devices. So it degrades the performance of the application. So while you develop the application itself, you have to consider the portability and the reliability and different performance parameters of a particular application. Then only we can solve this kind of a risk. And cost, because every project can be needs a budget, and the budget should be framed in the beginning itself. But sometimes a particular tool which is required but which is not mentioned in the budget preparation part, which may exceed the budgets, and it may not be it may be a risk for a particular completion of a project. Support risk. And support risk, what are the supportive environment or the training which are necessary for a particular part project completion, which is not provided by the institution or an organization, also affect the risk. So supports are required from the customer side, from the organization side, and from the core worker side also for the completion of the project. So the risk is also it is also support is also a component of one of the component in the risk. Schedule risk, the degree of uncertainty of the product which is delivered, which is not delivered on time according to the schedule, then the customer won't believe and won't agree because it is expected in a particular duration. For example, if you are ordering for a particular project for conducting an entrance examination, but after before the examination time itself, if the product is not available and which is not accessible, then the customers will be not be satisfied and will not accept to buy the project or buy the product. So we have to meet the schedule which is fixed by the organization team as well as by the customer. So all these are the components which are part of a risk, and the risk related to all these components should be considered, and to solve this kind of problem should not occur in the future. Then there are different kind of risk can be and risk management. So risk can be that is called risk mitigation, monitoring and management. Risk can be identified yearly, and we have to find out some of the steps for how to avoid those kind of risk. In case of any kind of resource failures, the entire project should not be affected at the time of perform when a project is launched or installed or mounted or by the user, and at the user end. If any one of the device is not working, it should not affect the entire or the whole. So how to overcome those kind of risks? So those steps should be planned. So this is called risk mitigation. Risk monitoring. So always after launching the application, we should have a code for monitoring the risk, because some malicious code attacks may be there or some failures may be there. So we have to track all this kind of risk which are occurring in a daily basis, maybe configuration related risk or some performance related risk. So everything should be, the code should be written and the people should be there for solving this kind of risk when the project is launched or deployed in the customer end or in the terminal of a customer's side. Management. So some of the plans we should have for managing this kind of risk. So we have to how to avoid the risk, and when the risk has occurred, how we can solve those kind of risk. So all the plans and policies should be there in the beginning itself, so that the customer will be happy and the risk may not will not affect the whole system. When a risk is occurred in a particular project, we have to record the information about a particular project's risk. So under different titles, what is the name of the project, what type of risk it is, what is the problem, that is what type of problem it is, and its priorities also. So whether the risk is having low priority, then we can give less preferences for it. We left with the risk with high priority, then it is a critical risk. Then it is going to be considered as a critical one. We have to immediately react for it. Then the factors, what are the risk factors? What are the major cause for this particular kind of risk? That should be analyzed, and the report should have this kind of information. And probability of the risk. The probability of the risk is occurrence of the risk may affect the project up to what type of percentage. So that should be given here. The impact of the risk, when the risk occur, what are the other components are going to be affected. So that should be recorded. Monitoring approach and contingency plan for monitoring and for managing this kind of a particular risk. Then what is the particular device is not working, or particular system failure occurred in a particular server. So what type of solution for it? So this is how the risk informations are going to be recorded. So risk management is an important aspect. When you develop a project, you have to consider different possibilities of a risk in a particular project, and you have to take all this kind of precautions and the measures for solving those kind of risks. Then only the organization which develop a particular software will be useful for the customers as well as beneficial for the organization, so that they may come and place more projects to the organization, and that may improve the quality of the development of process. The references are as follows. All these are the references considered for this presentation. Thank you.